My name is Maeve Rillan. I'm 34. And for most of my life, I was the sister you called when the real one couldn't show up. I didn't sparkle, I didn't pose, I didn't chase applause, but I was efficient. Quiet, predictable. The kind of sister who got thanked in footnotes if anyone remembered. Until the night I stopped playing background. Sierra, my younger sister, was getting engaged to Elias Vale, heir to a media empire. The celebration, held at Sky Ring Tower, 88 floors up, all glass everything. Even the moon felt like it had to RSVP. 5 million people were watching. Live stream, 3 camera crews, a drone orbiting the floral arch. And then Sierra did what she does best, turning my presence into a punchline. She tapped her champagne flute, grabbed the mic, and with a smile made for syndication, said, "Everyone meet my sister Dr. Maeve Rillan. She studies brain stuff, artificial intelligence, anyway, not exactly bridesmaid material. But she's been super helpful behind the scenes, folding chairs, tech checks, that sort of thing. Laughter, not nervous laughter, real, rolling, full-bodied laughter. My parents chuckled. Someone clapped. I didn't. I stood there calm, tucked one strand of hair behind my ear, walked up to Elias, and handed him a small silver box. Inside was a single 360-degree AR lens. I raised my glass. "To truth," I said, "and to those who mistake silence for surrender." The music skipped. A few people blinked. Sierra smiled, too wide, too brittle. And for the first time in years, I watched her lose control of the room. 3 months before the engagement party, my mother called me in a panic. "Sweetheart, I need your help. Sierra's slideshow isn't working and I'm hopeless with tech." I had every reason to say no. It was Saturday. I had back-to-back lab trials, a paper under review, and no obligation to rescue a woman planning a nationally broadcast wedding. But habits die harder than love. I showed up the next morning. Sierra wasn't there. The apartment was spotless, as always, white marble, chrome furniture, a perfume that smelled like wealth pretending to be innocence. On the dining table sat her memory system, an AR processor, a synced lens dock, and a scatter of labeled drives. The project was simple: compile an immersive, emotional slideshow from her memory lens footage. Turn scattered images into one seamless, glowing, romantic narrative. Except one file stood out, tucked in the corner of the drive, encrypted and tagged, "Do not sync." It wasn't password protected, just emotionally gated, which meant Sierra never expected anyone to push past it. Certainly not me. I did. Inside, 7 video fragments, all shot from her AR lens, dates, timestamps, emotional tones recorded automatically. The first opened with Sierra in a hotel room, white robe, glass of red wine, a man's voice laughing off-screen. Sierra looked straight into the lens and said, "Of course I'm marrying him. Have you seen the Vale holdings? 2 years of photo ops, 1 strategic prenup, and I walk with enough to buy my own network." She laughed, sipped, kicked her feet up. "And Maeve, she's building the slideshow for free, like she was born to be useful." My hands stilled, not from shock, but from clarity. There were more clips. One where she mocked Elias' mother, one where she coordinated press leaks, and one where she said, almost absently, "I don't hate Maeve. She's like one of those office printers, you don't notice it's there until it jams." I didn't cry. I didn't call her. I copied the files to a clean drive, ran a time sync check, and backed them up under one simple folder name, Project Truth. Then I deleted all traces of access, closed her laptop, walked to the kitchen, and told my mother it's fixed. She hugged me, said I was a lifesaver. I smiled, the same small smile I wore the night I handed her fiancé that silver box. After that day, I didn't confront her. I didn't mention the files. I didn't even pause. I played along. Because Sierra, she didn't unravel from confrontation. She unraveled from comfort, from thinking she was untouchable. So I gave her that. All the comfort she needed to destroy herself. 2 days after decoding her secrets, I texted her. Need help with florals or playlist timing? Happy to pitch in. She responded in 5 minutes. Finally, thought you'd stay useless. Typical. Typical, that word used to sting. Now, it just confirmed how predictable she'd become. She handed me the playlist, the vendor list, the background cue system. Every minor task felt like another match she didn't know she was tossing into gasoline. I volunteered to double-check the tech schedule, to manage the queue for the engagement slideshow, to ensure the projector system ran smoothly. She didn't notice when I labeled one flash drive engagement Final 2, MP4 and the other, Project Truth Auto Cue. I taped the real one under the top tray of my makeup bag, labeled it like a professional, synced it to run only when a specific emotional signature triggered the command, Elias's voice saying the word legacy. It took me 6 minutes to code. I rehearsed my toast every night after that, in the mirror, glass in hand. To truth, I whispered, and to those who mistake silence for surrender. I adjusted my expression until it wasn't pain, until it wasn't pride, until it was just signal, a perfectly crafted line in a script she didn't know I was writing. And while I handled cables and call sheets, she bragged about her dress, her guest list, her televised proposal coverage. Try not to look too plain next to me, okay? She teased. I want people to know we're related, just not confused about who's the bride. I smiled, not because I accepted it, but because Sierra never asked why I always smiled when she was speaking. That's the thing about narcissists. They never notice when you stop listening and start building something. The night of the engagement party arrived like it had been waiting its whole life. I got there early, per her instructions. She wanted the quiet people in place before the important ones arrived. I wore the navy dress she once called funeral chic. Simple, clean, forgettable, exactly how she liked me. The ballroom was dressed in blush and gold, silk linens, ice sculpture, a champagne wall with a neon sign that read, Sierra plus Elias forever streaming. Vendors buzzed like bees. Production assistants whispered into platinum earpieces. And somewhere beneath it all, I moved like a shadow, calm, calculating, invisible by design. Sierra floated in an hour later, trailing glitter and ego. She didn't notice how the staff's smiles stiffened around her, or how Elias's jaw locked every time she spoke. But I did. She air-kissed my cheek without making contact. Check the projector, she said, and cue the playlist. I don't want one of your tech hiccups. Then she vanished into the center of the room where everything revolved around her until it didn't. When the guests arrived, it was like watching two worlds collide. His family wore muted silk, hers wore sequins and volume. Our parents moved between them like campaign managers at a debate. I didn't say much. I stood near the champagne tower, glass in hand, pulse steady. And when Sierra tapped her glass for attention, I already knew how the next 5 minutes would go. She took the mic. I want to thank everyone for coming, she said, and to those who thought I'd never settle down, look at me now. Laughter. Then she pivoted, sharp as a blade. And of course, she smiled, my sister Maeve is here tonight. Some thought she'd be my maid of honor, but let's be honest, this album is going public. We needed someone photogenic. More laughter, even my father chuckled. That was the moment I stepped forward, calm, centered, holding a small silver box. I brought a gift, I said to Elias, something I thought you both should see. He blinked, the room hushed. Sierra's smile twitched. I raised my glass. To truth, I said, and to those who mistake silence for surrender. I handed him the box. He turned it over once, opened it, and stared at the lens inside, gleaming like a loaded scalpel. Someone in the back whispered, "Play it on the projector." Sierra froze. Elias looked at me. I nodded. There's a reason it's labeled engagement slideshow. He walked slowly toward the tech booth. The technician looked to me for confirmation. I gave it just one nod. The screen lit up, at first soft. Just Sierra's face laughing in soft lighting, a hotel in the background, wine in her hand. Then the audio kicked in. Of course I'm marrying him. Have you seen the Vale family trust? Gasps. Laughter died. Chairs shifted. 2 years, then I file. Half becomes mine. Clean. Profitable. Then she raised her glass on screen and said, "And Maeve, she's building the slideshow for free, born to be used." Silence. Real, suffocating silence. Sierra's voice broke through it, shrill. "Turn that off, that's fake, that's private." But then the second clip began. Same robe, same timestamp. This time she wasn't alone. She was in bed kissing someone who wasn't Elias, laughing, plotting. "You think he suspects anything?" Sierra scoffed. "He's too busy trying to impress his dad." And just like that, Sierra Rillan stopped being the bride. She became a headline, and the room became a courtroom. Sierra lunged not at Elias, not at me, at the technician. "Turn it off. You don't have permission to play that. This is slander. This is criminal." But Elias stepped between them. One hand raised, voice cold. "Let it finish." She froze, mouth open, chest heaving, and for the first time in her life, no one moved to shield her. On screen, the next clip began, her in the same room, this time bragging about the trust fund, about dodging the prenup, about how men are easy when they think it's their idea. And about me, Maeve's perfect for grunt work. No ego, no presence, no spine. The audio stopped. The screen went dark, and for one long moment, the only sound in the room was the hum of expensive lighting. Then Elias reached for her hand, not to hold it, to take back the ring. She resisted just for a second, but he didn't let go. "I was ready to marry you," he said. "Even when things felt off, I thought maybe it was stress. Maybe it was just you being sharp." His voice cracked only slightly. "But this..." He slid the ring from her finger. "This isn't sharp. This is manipulation. This is a script." Sierra stammered. "I loved you." Elias didn't flinch. "No, you loved what I represented." He turned to leave. No grand gesture, no parting line, just distance and the absence of defense. His father, Mr. Vale, followed close behind. So did several board members, and a few very quiet guests with very loud phones already typing headlines. Behind me, I heard my mother whisper, "Oh my God." Sierra turned toward me like I had summoned fire. "You destroyed everything," she hissed. "You jealous little shadow, you ruined my life." I met her eyes. "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "I just stopped hiding the parts you hoped no one would find." Then came the final blow, not from me. From the wedding planner, clipboard in hand, tone all business. "Miss Rillan, we need to speak about the venue charges, the catering contract, and the pending balance. You're listed as the sole primary." Sierra blinked like she didn't understand the words, like they were in a language she hadn't prepared to perform in. That was when I saw it. Not rage, not defiance, but the first real crack. She wasn't untouchable anymore. She was accountable. I didn't stay for the cleanup. I didn't linger for the apologies or the headlines or the texts that would follow. I didn't need to. By the time I stepped outside, the Arizona night had cooled just enough to feel like release. No cameras followed me. No one begged me to explain. The glass doors of Sky Ring Tower closed behind me with a hush louder than applause. I walked 3 blocks to my car. No rush, no regrets. Just air in my lungs and silence in my head that finally felt earned. The next morning, Glenford was quiet. Not quiet like shame, quiet like clarity. My phone buzzed for hours. Clips of the projector footage had already made it online. Blurry angles, shaky captions, millions of views. #bride unveiled, #project truth, #backup no more. I didn't open them because I hadn't done it for the internet. I made tea, watered my plants, reorganized the neuroimaging files in my lab database when I passed Mr. Dorn, my 83-year-old neighbor with the bad knee and perfect memory. He tipped his cap. "You held your ground, Dr. Rillan," he said. I didn't ask how he knew, I just nodded. That afternoon, my mother called. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Her voice was soft, small. "I don't know what to say," she began. I waited. "Then maybe don't," I replied. "Just listen." And for once she did. She listened to all of it, the files, the years, the moments I swallowed just to keep the family running smoothly. When I finished, she said only one thing. "We failed you." I didn't say she was right. I didn't say she was wrong. Some wounds don't need closing, they just need air. Sierra didn't call. But someone told me she'd left the city, that her show contract was pulled, that the Vale family filed a legal claim, that her manager dropped her. Even her PR firm released a statement. We were unaware. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt done. This was never about watching her fall. It was about stepping out from under her shadow before it crushed what little of me was left. For years, I thought being quiet meant being kind. That making myself small made things easier for everyone else. That maybe if I kept giving more, I'd eventually be seen. But that night, in a room built to spotlight her, I didn't wait for permission. I spoke, and the world shifted. I still live above the bookstore, still drink tea at 4, still study the brain's patterns of memory and control. But people look at me differently now. Not like the accessory to someone shinier, not like a placeholder. They look at me, and more importantly, I finally look at myself, not with apology, but with something closer to pride. Because I didn't burn her life down. I just stopped holding the fire extinguisher. And sometimes that's all it takes to let the truth catch flame.